It's almost 9 at night. You finally sit down with the book you've been meaning to read for 3 weeks. You open to the first page. You read paragraph. You read one paragraph, and somewhere in the middle of the second one, your hand is already reaching for your phone. You weren't bored. You didn't choose it. It just happened. 8 seconds. That's the part that's a little unsettling. You know that feeling where your mind won't sit still? Where it hops from the book to a text, to a snack, to that thing you forgot to send, to nothing, and back to the book again. A word for it started going around, and honestly, it's perfect. Popcorn brain, little thoughts popping off in every direction, one after another, and you're just standing in the middle of the pan. Let's walk through one completely normal day. Your alarm goes off, and before your feet even touch the floor, you've already checked 3 apps lying down. Breakfast, one hand on a fork, one hand scrolling. At work, you've got, 17 tabs open, and you're working in all of them and finishing none of them. Red light on the drive home, phone, dinner with someone you actually like, you're mostly there, and then bed, where you scroll until 1 in the morning to win back the time you spent scrolling all day. None of that felt like a decision. It just felt like a Tuesday. The term isn't even new. A researcher named David Levy came up with it back in 2011, which, if you think about it, is wild. That's before TikTok, before the feed we know today. He was watching how people's minds seem to pop from one thing to the next, the way a kernel jumps the second it's ready. He was describing us. He just did it a decade early. Around the same time, another researcher, Gloria Mark, decided to actually measure it, not guess. Measure. For 18 years, she and her team followed real people through their workdays with the digital equivalent of a stopwatch, timing exactly how long someone would stay on one screen before flicking to the next. 18 years of clicking a timer every single time somebody's attention jumped. And the number she kept getting back kept shrinking. In 2004, the average person stayed focused on a single screen for 2.5 minutes. By 2012, it was down to 75 seconds. Her most recent measurements, 47 seconds. 47. 5 other studies checked her work and landed in the same place. In under 20 years, the amount of time we naturally hold still went from a slow song to about the length of an elevator ride. Now, you've definitely heard the scary version of this, that humans now have a shorter attention span than a goldfish. 8 seconds. It's on a slide in every meeting on Earth. Here's the fun part, that stat is basically made up. Nobody can find the study it supposedly comes from, and goldfish, for the record, have perfectly decent memories. So no, your brain did not shrink down to the level of a pet fish. The real story is calmer, and honestly more interesting. Your capacity to focus didn't vanish. What changed is how often something reaches in and yanks on it. And you feel it in the smallest ways. The movie your friend loves that feels unbearably slow for the first 10 minutes. The text you open, read, fully intend to answer, and somehow close. The podcast you already have on 1.5 speed, and it still isn't fast enough, so you nudge it up to 2. Everything has a little dial on it now. And the dial only ever turns one way. And the strangest version of it is the reach when nothing even happened. You pick up the phone, you unlock it, and then you just stare at your own home screen because you have genuinely forgotten why you picked it up. No notification called you, no thought sent you there, your hand just did it on its own while you weren't looking. So you put it down. And about 4 seconds later, you watch your own hand do the exact same thing all over again. So why does this happen? Part of it is that every swipe is a tiny gamble. Sometimes you flick and it's nothing. Sometimes you flick and it's the funniest thing you'll see all week. You never know which one you're getting, and that not knowing is exactly what hooks us. It's the same design that keeps people at slot machines. A reward could be one more scroll away, so you take one more scroll, and then one more. But there's a deeper reason all of this works on you, and it's much older than any app. Your brain is built to chase what's new. For almost the entire history of our species, a new piece of information could genuinely save your life. A rustle in the grass, a shift in the weather, a shape on the horizon. The one who noticed the new thing got to keep living. So paying attention to novelty isn't some flaw a company installed in you last year. It's a survival instinct thousands of years old. The feed didn't invent that hunger. It just found it and started handing it a tiny snack every half a second. There's a second thing going on, and it's more subtle. When you switch from one task to another, a piece of your mind doesn't come with you. Researchers call it attention residue. You close the email and sit back down with a book, but part of you is still writing that email. So you read the same sentence 3 times, wondering why it won't go in. It's not that the book got harder. You just brought the last thing with you. And this is where the word multitasking quietly falls apart. You are not doing two things at once. Nobody is. What you're actually doing is switching charges a little tax. That same research suggests that once you're truly pulled off a task, it can take you over 20 minutes that once you're fully find your way back to it. 20 minutes. So a 5-second glance at a notification isn't really 5 seconds. It's 5 seconds plus the long, quiet walk back to wherever your head used to be. Now stack all of that on top of the feed itself. Because a feed is not real life. A feed is everyone's single best 8 seconds cut together back to back with every boring part surgically removed. No pauses, no waiting, no one clearing their throat. Just peak, 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 peak. And you can watch it for an hour without noticing the hour is gone. There's a lovely, sad little phrase for what this does to your free time. Time confetti. Picture your evening as one clean sheet of paper. Now grab some scissors and 3 good hours, all yours. A text, snip. A quick look, snip. Snip. By the end of the night, your 3 hours are technically still there, but they're in 50 tiny pieces on the floor. And confetti, no matter how much of it you have, is a very hard thing to rest on. And here's the thing that actually changed how I look at this. When you close the feed and the real world feels flat and slow and kind of pointless, the problem usually isn't the real world, it's the contrast. A can up until a firework goes off next to it. Real life didn't get more boring. You just spent an hour standing next to fireworks. Real life didn't get more boring. Ordinary starts to feel like something's broken, when nothing actually is. That word broken is the one everybody reaches for. My attention is broken, my brain is fried, I ruined it. But the scientists who actually study this are weirdly reassuring about it. What they find over and over is not damage, it's fatigue. It's a skill that's out of practice. Your ability to focus didn't get deleted, it got benched. And benched is a very different thing from gone. Pip would like you to subscribe, by the way. Pip does not actually know what subscribe is. Pip just heard it's important. Anyway. But there is a cost, and it's not really about productivity. The cost is that slow, good things start to feel like waiting. A long conversation with someone you love. A walk with no earbuds in. A kid telling you an extremely long story about a dog they saw one time. These used to be the whole point. And now some quiet part of you is tapping its foot, waiting for them to get to the good part, as if life were a video that should have been edited down. And there's a quiet loss hiding underneath that one. Boredom, the thing we now treat as a tiny emergency, used to be where your best thinking happened. The idea in the shower. The answer that shows up on a walk exactly when you've stopped chasing it. That is your mind wandering, connecting things in the background while you're not looking. But wandering needs an empty moment to even begin. And if you fill every single empty moment with a screen, you don't just lose the boredom. You lose the daydream that was 3 seconds away from solving your problem. The good news is real though. Attention behaves a lot more like a muscle than a scar. Muscles come back. And they don't come back from one dramatic weekend where you throw your phone in a lake and call it a digital detox. They come back the boring way, small reps, done often, slightly annoying. That is the whole secret, and I'm a little sorry it isn't more exciting. You've probably seen people online swearing by a dopamine detox. A whole weekend of no phone, no fun, no nothing, like a monk in a cave, to reset the brain. Here's the thing though, you can't actually drain and refill your dopamine like a gas tank, and dopamine was never really the villain in this story to begin with. The dramatic cave version mostly just makes you desperately want your phone by Sunday afternoon. What actually rebuilds attention isn't punishment, it's practice. Boring, repeatable, slightly annoying practice. Sorry to keep saying that. Rep 1, let yourself be bored on purpose. Next time you're standing in a line, don't reach for anything. Just stand there and be a person in a line. That little itch to check, that low-grade panic in your thumb, that is not a sign that something is wrong. That is the actual workout. You are teaching yourself that nothing has to happen in the next 4 seconds. Rep 2, one thing, one timer, and start almost embarrassingly small. Not an hour. 2 minutes of a single task. 2 minutes counts. When it starts to feel easy, add 2 more. Rep 3, put one speed bump between you and the feed. Log out so opening it takes actual effort. Leave the phone in the other room. You're not trying to have more willpower. You're trying to need less of it. A few more, and they're almost too easy to count as advice. Make the phone itself boring. Switch the screen to gray, and suddenly it looks like a spreadsheet instead of a candy store. Batch your checking into a couple of set times a day instead of a constant little drip all day long. When you sit down to do one thing, actually a little drip all day long. You're just moving the snacks 16 a monk. You're just moving the snacks out of arm's reach so that focusing becomes the easy option instead of the heroic one. If you only keep one of these, keep this one. The very first thing you hand your attention to in the morning sets the speed for the whole rest of your day. Open the feed at 7 a.m. and you've basically told your brain the day is a race before you've even stood up. So trade that first scroll for almost anything slower. Look out a window for a minute. Drink the coffee like it's the only thing happening. Be bored on purpose for 4 whole minutes. You're not wasting the time. You're setting the tempo. And the rest of the day tends to quietly fall in line behind it. And honestly, you'll probably reach for your phone before this video even ends. Maybe you already did. That reach isn't proof that you're broken or lazy or hopeless. It's a reflex that someone spent billions of dollars training into you. But reflexes can be retrained a little at a time by an ordinary person on an ordinary night, sitting back down with a book they've been meaning to read. So read the paragraph, then read the next one. That is genuinely the whole thing. Pip's gonna sit here and finish the page. You can go. Or you can stay. No pressure.